want more than just a piece. Wanna be heard from the west to the east. I worked in my craft and I prayed for my time on the scene. The man have never left my team. 19, learned the right creed. Nah, I'm not a right breed, but I might be. In my crease, Nikes, hit up my G. I'll still never sell out my theme. Well, you know about heritage, you go inherited. Don't chill with the snakes, but the flow still venomous. Perspective is everything, so much lemonade, I don't know what a lemon is.
Welcome back to the Common Sense podcast. Today we're flipping the script. So usually Mike was the one asking the questions, but this time he's in the hot seat. So I'm blessed. I'm going to be your host for today. And we're going to put Mike on the spot with questions from you, our listeners. We're going to cover everything from politics to personal life, maybe a few curveballs along the way. So are you ready?
I am indeed. This is a new format. We will see how it goes and make decisions after.
Okay. So is your Gen Z analyst the one who's put you up to this?
Well, I think the aim of this is to build more relationship between people who listen. Obviously, I mean, we have some very committed listeners, but we don't really ask them to ask us questions. We don't talk about personal life. You know, I'm just a guy that asks questions. If I'm honest, ChatGPT could do my job. So I'm trying to make myself indispensable so AI cannot replace me.
Okay, so we're going to go straight into it. So, Mike, what inspired you to start the Common Sense podcast and what keeps you motivated?
Okay, what inspired the start of this podcast in particular?
Yeah. Well,
the truth is, I actually never liked podcasts personally. I like documentaries, and so podcast was, if I'm being honest, it was just because everyone was doing a podcast. So years ago, we were like, okay, you know what? This is the new thing. We're a news network. If podcasts are the way people want to glean information, let's go into it. And so you can kind of tell I wasn't into it because we just released a bunch of random stuff. Over time, I think I realized that it's actually a really unparalleled sort of platform, and I think you know this as well, because it's one of the few spaces I think on the internet you can actually have long form conversations. Uninterrupted. You don't have to be prim and proper. We actually struggled with that at the start. I remember at the start we had like show notes. It was very like, welcome to the new episode. And it's like, we're basically doing TV, but on podcasts. Mm-hmm. Now I think I'm learning the format and the importance of just sort of going for it, being yourself, being authentic, and also not rushing thoughts and ideas, taking time to really articulate yourself. So, yeah, that's why I started. Why am I motivated to continue, or what motivates me? I think it's having really difficult conversations. So, I mean, last week's episode that we put out about Israel and Palestine, I loved it because it was 1 hour, 22 minutes of nuance. As in, if you listen, I'm not sure if you listen, but if you listened, it's nuanced, it's slow, it's considered. And I guess for me, that's what I'm excited about now, is having those deeper conversations and giving people space to breathe as they consume it, you know. So episodes probably be longer and stuff like that.
Okay, so you started off wanting to be like Stephen Bartlett, and then essentially you found your voice.
I know Stephen. That wasn't the goal. The goal was to just do a podcast for the sake of doing a podcast. But I think now I see, especially for what we do, which is having these really serious conversations, I think, or these contentious, let's say, conversations, this is a good format for it. It's either this or a long form read, which is like 15-minute article that you have to, I don't think people want that all the time. So this is a digestible format.
Okay, so it's a cool space to have hard conversations.
This is the one, like this conversation we're having right now.
Okay, interesting. So into the second question, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
An historical figure, just one person.
Any. So,
any, okay, dead or alive. American, historic. Probably Fela Kuti. Do you know who Fela Kuti is?
That's the president or the prime minister of... Oh, Fela Kuti. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know.
You don't know who Fela Kuti is?
I don't really know. Didn't come up on my spec.
This is crazy. So Fela Kuti was a musician from Nigeria. You actually know who Fela Kuti is? Nigerian musician, the godfather of Afrobeat. Not Afrobeats.
I think my barber's talked about him one time.
Your barber? No, so today I was getting coffee today, and that song, Suddenly I See, This Is Who I Wanna Be. You don't know that song, do you?
No, I know that song.
Who's it by?
I don't know the artist, but I know the rhythm.
Okay, carry on.
Suddenly I see.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
So I go into the shop, they're playing it, and the barista probably looked like it in the early 20s, like maybe 21, maybe 19, I don't know. So I was singing, and I was like, I haven't heard a song in years. I was like, it's such a good song. Do you remember it used to kind of come up on Top of the Pops? And she was looking at me like, she had no clue, number one, who sang the song, what the song was. But when I said Top of the Pops, she looked like I was just like nuts, just saying like blah, 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 blah. So then I asked her, do you know what Top of the Pops is? She said, no clue. So she actually didn't know the song, didn't know Top of the Pops, didn't know, and I thought, wow, this is one of the few times where my age was actually showing, as in that song I thought was clear. Fela Kuti was a musician, godfather of Afrobeat. I have him on my wall. One of my friends who's a fine artist drew him.
That wall.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's one of those three people. And he was basically somebody who was a real voice of the underserved and the underheard in Nigeria, and birthed a sound that wasn't just about, sort of making music, whatever. It was really the cry of the unheard in Nigeria. And he just fused a lot of different styles together to create Afrobeat, and just became the people's champion. Very political, would say things, very anti-government message, will hold the government to account. The government famously had his mother murdered, chucked out of a window. And I mean, he was did not accept rules, and just basically made things happen. And I like people who don't follow rules and who make things happen.
You like people who don't follow rules.
Correct. I'm talking about Renaissance people here. I'm not advocating lawlessness, but people who don't accept the world as a given, and who try to make things sort of better.
Okay, cool. I wouldn't have expected that answer, to be fair.
Okay, I mean, who did you think I would say?
You'd probably say something like, I want to meet the president, like something of this
president.
country, or for just a random country, just because, you'd like to get his thoughts on political history, philosophy.
No.
Like your PP degree or something.
No. You did PP as well, didn't you?
I did history.
Trade unions.
So the third question is, what's one political issue you think young people should be paying more attention to right now?
A political issue?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm curious, when you and your friends gather, what political issue do you talk about? Like what are the top? Is it Israel? Is it Palestine? Is it Gaza? Like what?
I don't know. I guess like different type of people bring different things to the table. I feel like maybe domestic issues come to the front
like
first.
What?
So
like,
for
what's
me,
the top issue for you guys? Like if you're gathering with friends, what can you bet this will come up politically?
all that bets,
Yeah.
like this is definitely coming up.
The rise of reform,
I don't
net
think
zero,
net zero.
immigration.
I'll maybe say because I have loads of friends who live in South, so then I feel like gentrification tends to be maybe one. So just how I guess people are moving, they're having to be moved out of London, and now I guess the area they grew up in and stuff they're not able to
afford to live there anymore.
That type of stuff comes to the front. Apart from that, I don't know. I guess political issues aren't really stuff it's something. I feel like you can, read about it, but it wouldn't be okay, guys, let's sit down and have a conversation about, reform or net zero. I don't think it's, it's not a party conversation.
Got you.
To be fair.
Conversation.
Yeah.
I can hear that go to parties because I would imagine this one. So I was actually having a chat with someone today about this. The big conversation young people should be talking about more. So at your next party, this is a conversation you should start.
Okay.
Right? The economy is not growing. It's a big issue. Okay? Since the last quarter of 2007, 2008 crisis, global financial crisis, growth in the UK has been anemic at best. We are not growing. And so after 2008, I think the country's basically entered this period of sort of managed decline where every single year we have a piece of cake that's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And now we're fighting about how to divide up the cake. And that's why the fight is getting more bitter. It's why immigration is such a issue and it's such a hot button issue, because people now collectively as a country, we've kind of adopted the scarcity mindset of we're going to be poorer. And as such, the people who get allocation is now a really big issue, which would be different if the country was actually growing. So where people, I was talking to someone today and I said, what's the main issue you would vote on in the next election? And they were like, immigration. I thought, oh my gosh, okay, yes, maybe we need to cap net migration from 700,000 that was last year.
You're pro-immigration reform?
I think we can have a much larger conversation. I think it's very odd to be pro or anti-immigration.
So they're flooding our country is what you're saying.
Come again?
They're flooding our country.
Absolutely not. My point is the focus needs to be less on immigration and all these sort of different things. And people need to talk about growth. Why is this country not growing? How do we grow? What trading partners do we need? What relationship should we have with the EU? Keir Starmer announced today this new business relationship we're striking with India. Okay, cool. We've got one bilateral trade agreement. What does it look like with the US? Can we grow without a big trade agreement with the US? What about the EU? We need more conversations about growth and less about what toilet should people go in and all these different things. Those are important, but we're not growing. And someone needs to talk about bold new ideas we need to chart for growth. So if there's one topic I think as a country we need to pay more attention to, it would be growth, economic growth. Sorry. Got a bit passionate. Maybe this would kill the vibe at a party.
I wouldn't start with that conversation, but I guess the next question is a bit more relaxed. So what's the most unexpected or funny moment you've experienced while recording a podcast?
Oh, that's a good one. This one's unreleased. I don't know if I should say it. So I can say actually, because the guy actually basically wasted a lot of our time. So during, we didn't release the episode because he asked us not to release it.
I figured.
So have I told you about the story already?
I'm about to find out.
Okay. So this Muslim imam, of course imams are Muslim by definition. This imam, he's like a very known, popular imam. And he came to the studio because we wanted to have a conversation about Islam and the rights of Islam. I think the census just came out and Muhammad is the most popular name in the UK or something like that. So we wanted to have a conversation about Islam more generally. Now, full disclosure, one of my big interests is religion, right? And studying philosophy of religion was my major. And I'm super interested in Islam. My extended family are Muslim, So I was like, I'm looking forward to getting, again, deep and into whatever, right?
Yeah.
So he comes, right? And he's this imam on TikTok and very well known. So he comes to our studio and we sit down and he's like, what's the conversation going to be like? I was like, just going to free flowing, We're going to start with me just asking general things about being an imam, etc. At some stage, we're going to get into some more meaty questions. I want to ask you about theology and what you believe about the Quran and the Hadith and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. So we sit down and we're just talking and it's starting off great, just laughing, whatever. So then, before we make the transition, we're still in the easy phase. So I just asked him about hijabs. I was like, well, tell me about the hijab, because for some people who aren't Muslim, they look at it and they go, this feels like a bit oppressive for women. Why do women wear it? What does it mean? What does it signify? Whatever. And he said something about, it's all about getting closer to God. He said something, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, that's cool. What about those who say that women have to wear it because essentially they don't want their appearance to lead men into lust or whatever? And he paused and he was like, can we stop this interview? And I was like, yeah, sure. But could you answer the question? And he was like, I can't answer this question.
Okay.
And he walked out of the interview.
Well, then and there. Yeah. That was the question.
But the video, we still have the video, but I'll show you after. I was just sat there what did I say? He literally stood up and walked out the interview. So that was very confusing to me. By the way, you can watch it after. I didn't interrogate him or anything. It was literally it was a softball question to kind of be like, let's get you into it. But I think he was just like, I don't want to do this. And he just left. So that was probably the one of the wildest moments where I thought, oh my gosh, this is wild. Someone actually walked out of the interview, and he asked us not to post it, that he isn't prepared for this. Like he didn't think he would get questions like that. Now, that's the easy question. There are some questions I would have asked him that would have really like shook the tables.
Yeah.
But we didn't even get to that because he walked out and basically melted at that section. So
Do you guys have a conversation after?
the one we had before he left, where he was just like, oh, he's like he doesn't feel ready for this interview, or like he feels like this is. I think he walked away because he found the question too hard to answer, which is a shame because I could have answered it for him. That's not one of the hard ones. Mm-hmm. The hard one is like asking about the Pew Research data that shows that Muslims in the UK globally are seen as Western Muslims who aren't actually adherents to the Quran proper or the Hadith. I don't follow the way of the Prophet, etc. So I was going to ask him how he feels about the fact that in the West, a lot of people here see the Islam practice in the West as a kind of like enlightened Islam and whatever. But if you go to Saudi Arabia, that's not how they see it. Mm-hmm. So I was going to ask, well, across the world, where do you think you're getting the purest form of those following the Prophet, right?
I don't think that's a crazy question.
Oh, that's the start.
Okay.
Because then what I was going to go on to ask him is all the different Pew Research data that has people believing that the people who are making drawings about the Prophet Muhammad in the kind of Charlie Hebdo, so on and so forth.
Oh yeah.
People who believe that he should have been prosecuted or he shouldn't have been allowed. People who believe in the Sharia law and they want to I wanted to get into the nature of what it means to be in the UK to support British and Western values, but also adhere to, let's say, Sharia law. Are they compatible? Like these sort of questions. We never got there.
Do you plan on having that conversation in the future?
I would love to. I'm interested in religion, and and it's not so much I'm not interested in cornering people. No, you don't learn anything from that. I wanted to find out actually what he believes. Like, if you genuinely believe that there's a certain sort of spiritual law that's higher than whatever, what does it look like to practice that? Like in the UK,
Yeah.
How should you practice that? What is it like? These are really interesting questions. At least I think are interesting. Anyways, sorry. Is this like too deep? This is meant to be a relaxed episode.
Yeah, we're going very deep, to be fair.
Sorry. What do you think about Sharia law? I'm joking.
I'm not ready for that question. What's a common misconception people have about politics that you'd like to clear up?
Well, the one is that it's boring. I think most young people, you can correct me if I'm wrong, probably think politics is a bit boring, right? It's just a bit like, ugh.
I don't think it's boring, but I think the mediums in which like politicians use to connect with young people might not be the best.
What do you mean by mediums? You mean like the platforms they're using? Or?
Yeah, I guess the platforms, but so it's like a lot of TV, a lot of like, FT articles.
I'm not good on TikTok, mate.
Pardon?
I'm not good on TikTok. Is that what you're trying to say?
I didn't say TikTok. Like, I feel like FT, I guess when you're just maybe used to engaging with content in a certain way. But I don't even think it's just that. Maybe like there's just an idea that politicians might not really be like in touch with young people as well. So you kind of see it as something that's going on in Westminster far away,
so
which is very much disconnected. Like, it's not, maybe if there was more of an emphasis on like grassroots politics and like a stronger connection with your local MP, then I feel in that case you'd be like, okay, politics is something I can identify and connect with. Whereas where you feel like it's happening far away and you don't necessarily have a say on these decisions, I feel like maybe that's where the fact, this idea that it's boring comes about, but not necessarily like what's going on in Whitehall.
I get that. But also the reason I say it's a misconception is like, if it happened before. I remember when I was younger, I walked past my friend watching Game of Thrones.
Okay.
And I saw like a dragon. No, I didn't see the dragon, sorry. I saw like them talk, like some dialogue, and then someone drew a sword, and I just thought, boring as hell. What on earth is that about?
Never watched it.
I never gave it time. Now, I remember I watched the first episode and I was like, okay. I watched the second episode, I was like, okay. Third episode, I was like, I'm just watching it because I've kind of started something, so let me finish it. Fifth episode, I said, whoa, what?
Yeah.
This happened? I won't spoil it for anybody. Sixth episode, now I'm in. Now I'm evangelizing. I'm telling everyone, you gotta watch the show. Obviously it ends, whatever. But I find that's what happens with politics as well, is that not enough people have given politics, especially UK politics, a chance. They kind of look at it, they see a bunch of like middle-aged white men going back and forth, a few minorities piping up here and there, It's just like this. Why am I going to watch this? If you give it time and actually get into it and start to see all the moving parts, it is fascinating. It is super interesting. Now, once you add to it American politics, which is just like UK politics on steroids, it's equally interesting. So I actually think that the misconception I think young people have about politics is that it's boring. In reality, if you give it some time and pay attention, you'll realize that it's very fun. And that might seem like a bit superficial, but I think it's important. And the second thing, I think you made a point. I have a friend who used to say, if you don't do politics, politics will do you, right?
Yeah.
It's very important that you know how decisions that affect your life are taken around you, not least so that you can make your voice heard. And I reckon it's one of those things people will care at some stage. When you get a house and bins aren't being collected, you'll be like, who's in charge here? And how do I know? So sometimes you just need skin in the game. When you start paying taxes, you'll be like, hold on, how's this money been spent? You'll start to care once you have buy-in. Like young people, it was when they were paying tuition fees. You're like, hold on. I was looking at the website today. My master's, when I did my master's in 2016.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
2016, I did my master's. Why do you think I'm not sure?
I thought it was in the 90s.
See, I saw that joke come in maybe 5 miles away. And I thought, well, let's give them a chance to execute it. But I don't think you believed in the execution.
You were saying?
But that was a good attempt, I would say. My master's was £7,000. £7,800, sorry.
Okay.
I checked the same master's today. Because I was actually looking at it today. It's £17,000.
That's not bad compared to like undergrad.
Well, how much are undergrads now?
It's like 9, but it's 3x from before. Well, before it was around 3K. Now it's around 9K.
Oh, no. My undergrad was 9K.
Oh.
So I did my undergrad in 2012, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's still 9K now, that's pretty good. But for your master's to be £7,000 in 2016 and now 17,000, that's an increase of 10,000. That's ridiculous. And it's the same content. Literally, it's the same title. I saw it, political philosophy, whatever it was. So I thought to myself, wow, that's crazy that it's become that expensive. But again, when they were threatening to take tuition fees up, that's when you saw young people kind of mobilize. So I think if people are more aware of all the different places where they're being done by politics, I think they may be more inclined to go, hold on a minute, what's going on here?
So apart from your masters, like where else did you think like, wow, like politics is doing me right now?
I've been active since I was young. I was a member of Youth Parliament. I was a young mayor. I was a UK Young Ambassador to the European Union. And I was a member of Greenwich Young People's Council.
You still talk about that?
I'm just telling you, I've been active since I was 14. You asked me a question, I'm answering it, and you're like, "Why are you answering it?"
No. It's just like that was okay, cool.
Yeah, so literally, I was 14 when I first got involved in the Greenwich Young People's Council. I was the vice chair of Greenwich Young People's Council. Then that's when I did. I became a member of Youth Parliament, but that was all 15. So I've always been campaigning in my local area, literally where we're sat right now, Greenwich, about mental health. Back then it wasn't cool, right? But we're still campaigning about the need for better mental health provisions. Unemployment was a big issue. This vicious cycle of people at the time couldn't get their first jobs because they needed experience, but they needed their first job to get experience. So there was this kind of cycle. So I campaigned about that as well. We're campaigning about poverty. I've literally, since I was 12, that's been a through line of my life. It's just how do I campaign against poverty in education? So yeah, my point is all these things, like I was a bit weird from young. I was always like, we need to try and fix X, Y, and Z. And so I was, campaigning super young.
Okay, cool.
I don't campaign anymore though. On the online campaigns.
That's fine. And I guess like going back, you were talking on like Game of Thrones, so like touching on the arts. What's a book or movie? That's the arts, right? The Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So what's a book or a movie that's had a significant impact on you and why?
A film or a movie? Was it a book or a movie?
Book or a movie that's had a significant impact on you. You're gonna say Avatar?
So bad. I think there's too many, mate. That's a really hard question.
You talk about Avatar.
Maybe a recent book or something. Huh?
Avatar. You talk about that a lot.
Yeah, Avatar's great. So Avatar: Legend of Aang, not that blue monstrosity. Actually, tell a lie. The blue one's quite good as well. The Way of the Water was good, and the first Avatar was good as well. Avatar: Legend of Aang is great. It taught me a lot of my life lessons.
I didn't like it.
Have you finished it?
I'm partway through book 1.
So you can't say didn't because
It's a
you haven't finished
very, very slow burn.
it literally isn't, and you are.
I'm in episode 6 of book 1.
Yeah, so you're at the start. So when you say you didn't like it, what you
No,
can't didn't anything. So you haven't actually finished watching it.
My favorite piece of art is AOT, Attack on Titan.
Yeah, because you have a attention span of a goldfish.
No, I don't mind the attention, but I feel it's a very short story, so it's around 85 episodes.
So it's short.
No,
you don't have good attention
I've
span.
also watched part 4. I'm maybe 500 episodes deep into One Piece. That's
How long are the episodes?
it's still ongoing, but there's probably
How long are the
20
how long are
20
the
minutes.
episodes? There you go. My point is the issue here is your attention span.
No, the attention span's great. I enjoy documentaries.
Yeah. You just said Attack on Titan is, especially if you're watching it from bootleg sites, which I suspect you are.
Crunchyroll.
Okay. It is 18% adverts.
No, I got premium Crunchyroll.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you using someone's account or is that yours?
It's mine.
Okay. Oh, wow. It's breaking news. My point is, normally the actual content is like 15 minutes, right? The actual episode tends to be that short.
Yeah, like I say 2 minutes for like the intro, the outro. So then you're probably watching like 20 minutes ish.
Content.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, obviously, there is a space for short form art, obviously, but for me, like, I mean, Avatar is just elite. I mean, you not like an Avatar for me is, what do people say? Red flags. It is extremely.
Who told you that?
I know red flags. Okay. Yeah, like that's ridiculous. Like, so, and then to answer the question, the reason why it's beautiful is because I love a character arc. I love pacing. I like people who are introduced to us as maybe a young, kind of prepubescent, just wide-eyed. The world is a beautiful place. There's no harm in the world.
Yeah.
At the end of it, they're mature. They understand temperance. They know how to exercise judgment and use their power.
You know who you described there? Eren Yeager.
Ang.
Eren Yeager.
Ang.
Eren.
My problem with Attack on Titan is and a lot of anime, obviously I had my anime phase. It's so hyper, like it's so extreme that I find it like nice for like people who don't like nuance. Now I'm not saying everyone who watches it doesn't like nuance, but for me, I need more than like really extreme. Like it's too much for me.
Yeah, this AOT take is actually crazy to me.
I mean, I actually like Attack on Titan as well. Just to be frank, I'm just saying, for me, it's revealing that you struggle with Avatar, but you only enjoy things that are like 15 minutes long. It's part of this TikTok generation.
I'm pre-TikTok.
I mean, you can't watch things that 30 minutes. You're saying it's a slow burn. It's literally a cartoon for kids.
No, Invincible's an hour long, right?
Yeah, full of gore, and that's probably what keeps you watching, right?
No, I feel if someone says this is going to be a good anime or a series, I'm like, okay, cool, I'll give it a try.
But calling Avatar a slow burn is for me egregious.
Tell us in the comments what you think. I think that's. I don't think it's just me. I've talked to other people as well.
Burn.
Yeah,
have you lost your mind, man?
I think Aang found like the Earth guy, like the really old Earth guy.
Boomy.
Oh no, cool. Where I left off, he was in that place in the fire villagey thing. So like he met one of the avatars. Then he destroyed the temple. That's where I left off. I was just, okay, cool. So I can see maybe where it's going. I don't know, but it's not,
Keep watching and I'll accept your apology at the end.
Okay. And I guess the next question. So whatever number it is, if you had to describe your philosophy on life in one sentence, what would it be?
My philosophy on life?
Yeah.
I didn't study philosophy, so I should have thought about this before, but I don't think I have a life philosophy in one line. Have I ever shared a life philosophy with you in one line?
No, it goes into like a monologue.
Have I ever shared with you a life philosophy? I think you might be exaggerating there.
I don't know. I guess I'll see what your answer is.
Well, I don't know. In a sentence, a life philosophy. Sorry, I'm now trying to come up with a philosophy. So that's obviously not true, right? If I'm trying to recreate it right now. I guess, one of my life missions, which is probably how I would phrase it, is bending the levers of power towards justice, right? So that I have said a few times, and it is a kind of organizing principle for me, which is, to what degree can I bend the levers of power towards justice? I'm very, very animated around injustice. I like rules. I'm a stickler for rules. I mean, like fair rules is the wrong term. I think what I mean really is fairness. I'm a stickler for fairness. When I think something is unfair, I tend to get so if we're playing a game of Articulate, say something fun, and I feel like someone's cheating or the rules aren't clear, I have been known to make my opinion very well heard, that I think there's cheating going on here, or this is not fair. So I'm the guy that started like, can we clarify the rules just so everyone so for me that's a big thing. And again, that's a silly example, but it then materializes in when I feel like a system is set up such that certain people are subjugated, or some people don't have a realistic opportunity to pursue whatever. You get the gist. I tend to get very animated at that. That appears to be funny to you.
Where does that start?
Where did it start? It all started when I was born. No, it started. I mean, it's something. To be fair, with a lot of these things, if you do a lot of like soul searching, you'll probably find that it comes from some childhood experience you've had. I haven't gone that far to kind of explore if something happened when I was super young that kind of orientated me that way. I'm a Christian, so I do believe when I became a believer, it became one of the things that jumped out to me in reading the scriptures, is that we serve a God that is fundamentally just. And so justice is one of these key predicates that gets me most animated, because he balances all the equations in the end. And that for me is a really cool thing, to know that like vengeance belongs to the Lord. He will balance it all in these kind of divine order. And what I can balance on this earth, I will, but the rest is up to him.
But you said you don't like soul searching, like you wouldn't want to go back to like, a childhood event. Why is that? We can. No, we can. I just think, not really in the mood. But I do believe it probably does come from like being young, and things happening when you were young and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Okay, happy childhood. How do you describe that?
Happy childhood. Yeah, I had a good childhood. I was in a loving family. Yeah, had a great time. Lots of fun. What I remember the most about growing up is laughing so much that my belly was hurting. I like my mum, dad, we're all very funny people. So when I grew up, what I remember vividly is always just laughing. Even in secondary school, just a lot of laughter. And incidentally, I love laughing now. It's just a thing I do. I'm always giggling, always like laughing. I'm always in my room just laughing. I just love laughter. Mm-hmm.
So you're the funny one. That's how you describe yourself. In your
no. I think we're all funny. Everyone's just like we're just very obviously I grew up in Nigeria, mum. Just it would be 9 p.m. and you're like, I'm about to go outside quickly. She's like, it's midnight. You're like, it's not. It's just very extreme stuff. You'd be like, mum, like, calm down. Mm-hmm. She's coughing. Maybe you're just like, I hope you're okay. And you walk away. She's like, so I should die. And you're like, whoa, that's not what happened. These sort of things. Just parents being parents and that kind of thing.
Who's your favorite comedian?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. Very hard to answer. Depends what time you catch me. Right now, I've been watching a lot of reruns of. It really depends when you catch me. I love comedy, like stand-up.
That stand-up?
Big time.
Have you been to like a...
I used to go to the Frog and Bucket. Like, I used to go to stand-up as well in Manchester.
The Frog and Bucket?
Yeah. These are just like stand-up clubs. Comedy clubs. But, have you never been to one?
I've never heard of the common, but it sounds like the crust bucket. SpongeBob.
Yeah. Favorite comedian for a time was Michael McIntyre when I was growing up. I just loved Michael McIntyre. Just relatable. #relatable. He just used to say a lot of stuff that was just like so relatable. Then I think I started liking Jimmy Carr. I loved for a bit as well. I like something. Mickey Flanagan is hilarious to me. He has the bit about going out. Like, I'm going out, and the difference between out and out. It's so funny. Do you get it?
Going out versus out.
Yeah. But he has a whole bit on it that his friends ask him, "You going out?" He's like, "Nah, going out," and it's just the whole thing. So he's really funny as well. Who else do I like? I don't know. I love comedy, and there's a show right now on Amazon Prime called Try Not to Laugh. Very good. Mm-hmm. Have you seen it?
No.
It's very good. It has all like British comedians, and they're all in a room trying to make each other laugh.
Okay.
And whoever doesn't laugh wins.
Okay.
But if you laugh, you're out. So it's just ridiculous. You just see them trying to make. I mean, it's genuinely really funny. So I'll take a look at that if you have time.
Okay, sounds cool. And I guess the next question. So, can you share a memorable piece of feedback you've received from a listener and how it impacted you?
Oh.
Did you read the comments?
No. But that's not because there's so many. I just don't tend to engage with comments. But feedback has gotten to me though. And I think there was one time, I think it was the conversation we had about, so there was a time I did an interview with Harry and Meghan. And we spoke about being black and black lives, about the historic injustice in the UK, blah, 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 something like that. And at the time, people were like, "Oh, why did you have that conversation?" Something like that. And we did a podcast after explaining why we did that, like why we had a conversation with them, the opportunity, why we think it's important, so on and so forth. And that's when I got quite a lot of messages like, "Oh, thank you for," because people were a bit confused. They thought, "Do I hate the UK? Is this like an anti-establishment sort of whatever thing?" I mean, naturally, it got a lot of views at the time. So people were really thankful that I actually explained why we had the conversation. And because obviously the conversation was the conversation, so you couldn't really tell what else was going on. So I was able to explain why we had it, what was said, what happened behind the scenes, etc., etc. And yeah, people enjoyed that justification. And for me, why it was, I mean, it might seem a bit kind of nuanced, but the reason why I think it was good was because it felt like, it was the first time I felt like there was a trust relationship with the audience, such that they were like, "Oh, can you explain this?" And I explained, and they're like, "Oh, that really helped you explaining it." Because if they didn't care, they just wouldn't care. They just move on. So the fact that it wasn't apathy, but they actually wanted me to explain, and they understood and were sending me messages like, "I understand where you're coming from, or why you did it, etc." I was like, this is quite cool.
But surely if they listened to the conversation, they'd know the content, right?
Yeah, but they still wouldn't know why we decided to have that conversation. This was in the height of the George Floyd thing. There's a lot going on, a lot being said. Obviously, you had two very prominent members of the Royals having, at the time anyways, talking about historic injustices in the UK and the royal family and reparations and all these. And that, I mean, at the time, it was very big news. Like, whoa, what are you trying to say about the royal family? Mm-hmm. Obviously, much later on, they've done multiple interviews and so much more has been said. But at the time, it was kind of like one of the first things that was around racism and so on and so forth that was said. So some people like literally were emailing us. Our website crashed after it because we had so many random people on the website send us things like, "You hate the UK, why don't you go out to your country?" Like all these different things that was like, whoa.
So Daily Mail had a field day.
They did. Well, they only published like 6 articles, wasn't it?
6? Mm-hmm. Is that not a lot?
I mean, they could have done 100. They just did 6. It's just, I'm a small fish. They're just random, whatever.
Agreed. So cool. So I guess this question relates to like the team that you have and like doing the podcast together. So what's the most challenging part of running a podcast like this, and how do you handle it?
Honestly, it's the consistency piece, right? We're getting better, again, growing a team, these sort of things. So it's getting better. But initially, it was just really hard because, again, I do so many other things. And whilst this is important, obviously, I didn't really see the value in, okay, we need to do this every week and make sure that, because I'd be like, I have the conversations with the team or just with people all the time, literally all the time. So the idea of recording it and make it into a product wasn't something I really felt that I needed to do for a long time. And so we would often just like ghost after putting like 3 episodes, just disappear. So now I'm trying to get to the stage where it's a bit more consistent. So it's just consistency and rhythm. Sometimes we record things and that's not good enough. Then we record something that's good. And so it's that kind of making sure there's consistent quality and people start to recognize, okay, they're using the same set or they're using the same, or it's, oh, look at this one has value as well, that sort of stuff. So it's been that consistency piece, I think.
But outside of consistency, like your team is growing a lot right now. So how do you manage like dealing with different sorts of personalities, building it from like the ground up, like start from the very beginning?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to answer because I've always done that. So literally, we started out, or I don't know if you know this, but we started out with a crowdfunder. We raised over 50K in 50 days, and we did that with the help of like 130 people. So the Common Sense Network started with a group chat of 130 people. So I've just always been the one managing and the one like balanced in the middle, whilst lots of passionate right wingers, left wingers were going at each other in the WhatsApp chat. That was always how we started. Okay. So I'm very used to just kind of like, I'm quite malleable. You know, I can adapt. I can understand most positions. Sometimes it might come across as like, oh, you could just play both sides. But it's like, yeah, I can. But for me, I see it more as like, you know, I'm in the principled middle and I understand people who have way more kind of extreme or the kind of fervently held beliefs. I can walk to both sides and understand where they come from. More personally, I'm trying to work out how to be a bit more, I think I'm quite technocratic by nature. You know, I like a kind of like, oh, let's review the numbers, whatever. But so sometimes you need to lead with conviction and be a bit more like, you know, make judgment calls or make bets. That's literally what leaders do, is make bets. And I don't really make bets. I'm like, oh, well, the data says we should do this. So should we do this? And sometimes when you're one of those people that believe in like, oh, the right idea should win, it can make you quite limp as a leader. As you don't make any decisions. You're always like, let's let the decision reveal itself. And it's like, no, you need to make a decision and make a bet. So I'm trying to get better at that and making some calls. For instance, for a long time, this podcast, it had so many people making it that I was like, this is way too many people. And the final product would always be a bit limp because you had to appease all the different people. We need to have this intro. We need to have that. And then you do it and you're like, and I'm sitting there like, this is not good. But I'm like, oh, everyone's happy with it, you know? So, and now it's a bit more like, no, I don't want to talk to that person. I want to talk to them. Or this is interesting. And just like having fun and just making judgment calls is something I'm trying to do more. This format is one that we might not do again, or we might be like, let's do more of it based on how we feel about it. So some people are like, why would you do this? This makes no sense. Other people are like, yeah, we should do this. We're doing it. And if we don't like it, we don't like it. We move on. So I want to fail fast and get to the position where we know what works and we're ready to kind of press, you know, Control C, Control V. Control C and Control V. You get that?
Copy and paste.
Okay, cool.
Okay. But I guess like, how do you, so you say, I guess you come across as a very like logical person. So like you said, you're a technocrat, you like to go where the data resides. So how exactly does that look like when you might be, you know, you might want to be on the fence on a decision, you want to like review the data, but you need to make decisions like very quickly?
Well, you need to do it. There's no like, decisions divide. Right, that's one of the mantras. It's my life philosophies. I'm joking. It's not life philosophy, but it's definitely something I believe. Decisions divide, and division might seem bad, but actually, what division does is it helps you to know where you're at, who's with you, who's against you, who gets it, who doesn't.
It's a bit extreme.
Yeah, I mean, it's who's with you, who gets it, who doesn't, who agrees, who disagrees, and cosmetic unity is worse than like a divided team. It's actually better to be divided so you know exactly where people are at. You can start working towards how you bring people together, right? Towards genuine unity rather than having some faux sense of like, well, we're all just together because no one's made any decisions. So we're all just kind of like, you know, we look like we're really tight, but the truth is we're not convicted in where we're going. So if I make a decision and 10 members of the team say, we are in, and 4 say we're not, and the 4 leave, that might seem bad. But essentially what I have now are 10 people committed towards one way versus before I might have had 14 people. Because I didn't make any decision, no one knew where they were going. It's just a bunch of nothingness. So when I say decisions divide, it's something I'm trying to get into the habit of when you're a startup, it doesn't like some people will leave. It's not an indictment on you or like your life or they just don't agree with the decision, which is fine. But the quicker you make those decisions though, the increased likelihood or increased the likelihood is that you find people who do agree with it. And then now you've got momentum of people who believe in the product you're serving. And honestly, for a long time, I would say the Common Sense Network was just a mesh of so many random people with different perspectives, which was a virtue in and of itself. But of course, they weren't really going anywhere because there wasn't really any solid decisions being made that people could now follow. It was just everyone's happy, things are going well, we're making a bit of money, let's just keep it, let's not rock the boat. And I've learned that that's not helpful. So for me, it's a personal journey I've been on, but I think increasingly so, I'm of the opinion that as a leader, you need to be known for making decisions and not just like pussyfooting and constantly doing reviews. I'm always doing a new report. There's a new report. And it's like, mate, decide and divide.
Decide and divide. Okay. I like that.
Do you agree? You agree now, right?
I mean, I don't run a team, so like I haven't seen it as such, like people falling away the way that you describe it.
Falling away.
I think that's the term that you use. Okay. Well, I like the response. And I guess like one of the next questions. So if you could change one thing about the current media landscape, what would it be?
I hate the kind of gotcha nature of the media landscape.
Which media are you referring to exactly?
Oh, just everything. Even it's funny because alternative or now called new media was meant to be, we're gonna do things differently from the mainstream that's driven by solely profits and advertising revenue and blah, blah, blah. But they do the same thing because now they're getting a lot of the people who started news networks like 10 years ago now have 2, 3, 4, 5 million followers. So in a sense, they're becoming the mainstream, right? In an ironic type of way. Like Novara Media, let's use that as an example, this kind of left-wing organization in the UK. I remember, I don't know if I subscribed, but I remember seeing them when they had like 10,000 subscribers, right? They're over 1 million now, right? It's been, 7 years, 8 years? So this is an organization that initially could call itself fringe. Well, it's just a fringe movement on the side. I mean, at 1 million followers and fastly growing, you're not fringe anymore.
You can still be like alternative though.
Yeah, you can always call yourself alternative forever. But my point is they're no longer fringe movements. They are now part of the mainstream in that Joe Rogan podcast receives more views than like a lot of traditional broadcast organizations. And so, those days are gone. I made that point to say that a lot of the things that the mainstream media used to do, which necessitated these alternative media outlets starting, they are now also doing clickbait. This kind of like gotcha-ness of conversations, not allowing for a free exchange of ideas where you actually try to steal man and hear the other person out. The amount of times I watch these interviews and I'm just seeing people kind of like trying to get each other rather than going, I see where you're coming from, I disagree. People thinking out loud. No one does that anymore. People come with like pre-written whatever. Like you watch Piers Morgan's shows and mate, I mean, part of it is interesting because there's just so much ridiculousness happening. But at the same time, when you finish, you kind of go, what's the point of that? It's just a bunch of shouting, very carefully curated to create conflict, right? And sometimes it's not conflict where there's a possibility of going, I see where you're coming from. It's just, here's my point. I'm going to shout it till the cows come home. To your point, shout it as well. Shout, shout, shout. All right, that's all we have time for. And you go, what's the point of this? This is literally what we used to get on CNN. Now we're just getting it on YouTube. So I wish the mainstream media landscape allowed for more interesting exchange of ideas where people can go back and forth and learn from each other.
But do you think that arises just because like they have to cater to a new audience, or is that just a problem with the vision? So like if CS was to become, quote unquote mainstream, do you not think that it could still have that sense of what you originally, wanted to do, is where you just share diverse opinions and voices?
The main issue I find is advertising. When your main goal is to sell ads, attention becomes the main thing you're after. Okay. If you're after attention, that's your primary desire, it incentivizes behavior that's not conducive to growing a balanced, fair media outlet. If you are paid via or the bulk of your money comes from subscriptions, that incentivizes something else. It incentivizes you ensuring your base is fed, which then incentivizes audience capture, right? So if you know that people paying you money are all left wingers who like it when you dunk on the right and they increase their subscriptions, or guess what you're gonna do, right? So it's really hard. Like wherever way you get your money, like you're gonna be like pushed to in one direction or the other. It's just I just know that I know for a fact that a lot of the behavior we see in the mainstream media is because of advertising. They need advertising revenue, they need eyes, so they create conflict because that drives attention and they sell ads.
So do you see yourself like selling out in the future when you get big?
Do I see myself like, yes, I'm going to sell out? No, I don't see myself selling out. I don't see that happening at all. Because again, this was never started to make money, and so I mean, the fact we made money is like, oh my gosh, we have money, but that was never the goal. And so I don't see myself being motivated by that enough for it to grossly change how we do things. I just don't see that happening.
Okay. And how are we doing for time?
We have about 5 minutes left.
Okay. Cool.
Feel free to weigh in, you know.
Well, on the attention economy.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't really. TV is just. It's not something I use as a medium to like consume. You know, so I'm more. No, but you'd think I'm like TikTok. I'm FT articles, so I read those. BBC News articles, so like they're on my phone. So I'll see like interesting, like when Trump and China were having like the trade war, like every.
Why having the trade war?
I mean, now it's starting to de-escalate a little bit, right? But like I'd see like FT articles every now and then. So it was just first it was around 80%, then 125 and 145. So that was what I was like kind of consuming. So I'm not really,
And why do you consume them? Do you trust them?
I mean, I guess just do I trust the
FT and BBC?
I don't think it's about trust, but you want to know what's going on, right?
Well, why them? Why not Navarra Media? Why not the Mirror? Why not the Daily Mail?
Because I guess like when you're in university, like it's just like, okay, FT articles, podcasts, those are like the standard mediums to kind of be commercially aware, like when you're applying for like, corporate roles and stuff. So, they're not really saying, use Navarra or what's the other one? Al Jazeera. Is that the one?
Really? They don't say use them?
No, they don't say Al Jazeera. It's more like, FT, Bloomberg.
They don't say Russia Today? They don't say...
I've actually heard of that one.
You've never seen it?
No, I've heard of Russia Today.
Of course, yes, of course. But I'm saying, have you ever like actually looked at it?
Yeah, because I think it was something Cold War related or something like Russian. So I just like came across on YouTube.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, because it's banned in the UK, I suppose you may not have really had time to consume it.
Have it banned in the UK?
Yeah, it's banned in the UK.
Oh.
I have friends that literally used to work at Russia Today. So, I mean, for a long time, it was just a news outlet. Like here, they had offices, like so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But now they're like, get out.
Yeah, but I don't think Gen Z is just like, just TikToks, and I feel like you have a idea that we're very...
I'm absolutely sure you're on TikTok. And most of your time is spent on TikTok. Now, you might be an outlier, but there is no way in the world Gen Zs aren't on TikTok. Like,
no, they're on TikTok, but I wouldn't say like, we're not like, oh my gosh, we're going to type in TikTok. What's going on in America? Like,
I think that's exactly what they do.
You reckon?
I know. I mean, you're not the only Gen Z I know. I mean, you guys aren't like you're not unicorns. Like you're everywhere. Yeah. And you guys let us know what you're doing. And I think the data as well reveals that you spend a lot of time on TikTok as a cleavage, right? You guys spend a lot of time on TikTok.
Yeah.
But you're clearly an outlier, right? You read history. You're not.
I'm not.
You're different. Cut from different cloth, mate.
I was going somewhere. Okay. And this might be like, we'll see how we go. But, okay. So what's one thing you think more people should know about you that they probably don't?
That I am more fun than my online presence reveals. I think it's my voice and my... just everything I do online.
I don't think it's your voice. I have a deep voice, but they think I'm more fun.
Well, I think you crafted this voice because I saw you before we started recording.
That's crazy.
Doing a bunch of different things that I don't want to repeat.
That's crazy.
So yeah, it's just, listen, I'm not interested in campaigning for fun. That's not the point. But I do think, I think when you talk about politics online or you talk about life or whatever it is, I think inadvertently people think, oh gosh, this is very serious and it's just set up for this, and it's like, well, it's actually not. Like I like to have fun. I really enjoy being cheeky.
What about that day in the lives, week in the lives? Like, will you bring like vlogs along for us to like? That's how you get the Gen Z. We want to see like outside of the studio.
The Gen Zs.
Who do you want? What's it all for? You want to help young people,
What's
right?
it all for? This is good. Yeah, I suppose so. I guess so. Yeah. We'll have to.
I'll sit down with your Gen Z analyst.
We'll have to bring it to the fold. No, thank you for doing this. This has been fun.
Okay, that's I was meant to like kind of.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so Mike, thank you for thanks for having us. Like, it's been a great ride. I guess we got to see a bit more of you, like a 3D picture. So let us know, guys. Like, if you really enjoy this type of content. If so, we might bring it back. If not, day in the lives, week in the life vlogs.
No, it's been unlisted. if it's been unlisted.
Oh, damn. But yeah, it was a pleasure. So we'll see how it goes.
Thank you. You're natural.
We'll see.